Ambassador Kethvar stood before the massive viewing screen in the Galactic Council chambers. His blue skin had turned pale as he watched another star system die. The Vex-High swarm had reached the Omega sector, and entire worlds were going dark. How many this time? Asked Council Leader Zarath, her voice shaking. 12 billion souls, Kethvar replied. The entire Cygnus colony network is gone. They consumed everything in less than 3 days. The chamber fell silent. Around the circular room, representatives from 50 different species sat in their floating chairs. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were made of pure energy. All of them looked terrified. The Vex-High swarm was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were not just invaders or conquerors. They were eaters. They consumed entire planets, turning all life into more of themselves. Every creature they touched became part of their hive mind. Every ship they captured became another weapon in their endless fleet. The crystalline empire has fallen, reported General Voxhan, his rocky form crumbling with stress. Their diamond ships that took 1,000 years to grow were destroyed. In hours, the Vex-High learned how to shatter crystal with sound waves. And the Luminary? Asked Zarath. Gone, Kethvar said quietly. Beings of pure light, extinct in one battle. The swarm found a way to absorb their energy forms. The Council had tried everything. Their most advanced weapons barely scratched the swarm's bioships. Their most powerful shields lasted minutes against the acid that dripped from Vex-High claws. Their smartest battle computers were hacked and turned against them by the hive mind. Every species that joined the fight brought their best technology and their greatest warriors. All of them failed. The Zephtari had guns that could crack moons. The Altarians had shields that could stop supernovas. The Morganti had combat experience spanning 10,000 years. None of it mattered. We need new ideas, Zarath said. Something the swarm has never seen before. What about the humans? Asked a small voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to look at Data Keeper Rixal, a tiny insect-like being who managed the Council's information files. He rarely spoke in meetings. The humans of Sol 3? Kethvar laughed. They are primitives. They still use chemical rockets and metal weapons. They have not even reached their nearest star. But they fight each other constantly, Rixal said, his antenna twitching nervously. Our observation posts have watched them for decades. They wage war like no other species we have seen. Fighting among themselves is different from fighting the swarm, General Voxhan rumbled. Is it? Rixal pulled up holographic images. Look at their history. They create weapons designed to kill millions of their own kind. They have strategies for battles they call total war, where they destroy everything, even their own cities. They fight in ways that would horrify civilized beings. The images showed human battlefields throughout history, trenches filled with poison gas, cities burned to ash, weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They are barbarians, Kethvar said with disgust. Maybe that is what we need, Zarath said slowly. Barbarians. The debate went on for hours. Most council members thought the idea was crazy. Humans were barely space-capable. They had no advanced technology. They knew nothing about galactic politics or the swarm's capabilities. But they were running out of options. Every day, more systems fell. Every week the swarm grew stronger. Traditional military thinking had failed completely. I will go to Earth, Kethvar finally said. I will assess their capabilities. If they are truly as savage as our reports suggest, perhaps they can offer something we cannot. 3 days later, Kethvar's ship approached the small blue planet in the Sol system. He expected to find crude cities and primitive technology. Instead, his sensors detected something impossible. Ambassador, his pilot said, we are being scanned. By what? Unknown technology. The scans are more advanced than anything in our database. Before Kethvar could respond, his communication system activated. A human face appeared on his screen. The creature looked young for its species, with dark skin and bright eyes. Altarian vessel, this is Colonel Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Command. You are cleared for landing at Facility 7. Follow the beacon signal and prepare to be escorted. How? Do you know our language? Kethvar asked in shock. We have been listening to your transmissions for 78 years, the human replied. Landing Bay 12 is prepared for your arrival. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Kethvar. The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar staring at the screen. The humans knew his name, they knew his species. They had been watching the galaxy for decades without revealing themselves. As his ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, Kethvar saw cities that glowed with energy he did not recognize. Ships moved through the sky using technology that seemed impossible for such a young species. Hidden beneath camouflage fields, massive structures covered entire continents. What have they been doing down there? His pilot whispered. Kethvar did not answer. He was beginning to realize that the Galactic Council had seriously underestimated humanity. These were not the primitives they had expected to find. The landing bay was enormous, carved deep into a mountain. As Kethvar's ship touched down, he saw human soldiers in armor that looked more advanced than Galactic Council equipment. Their weapons hummed with energy signatures he could not identify. Colonel Chen met him at the airlock. She was smaller than he had expected, but her eyes held a hardness that reminded him of veteran warriors. Ambassador, she said, we know why. You are here. The HFY swarm is threatening galactic civilization and your traditional methods have failed. You need new ideas. How could you possibly know about the swarm? Kethvar asked. Chen smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. We have been preparing for this war since before you knew it existed. Would you like to see what humanity has built while you thought we were savages? Colonel Chen led Ambassador Kethvar through corridors that seemed to stretch forever underground. The walls were made of metal and stone, but they hummed with energy that made his scales tingle. Human soldiers stood at attention as they passed, their armor reflecting lights he had never seen before. How long has this place existed? Kethvar asked. Since 1947, Chen replied. That was when one of your scout ships crashed in our desert. We reverse-engineered the technology and started building. They entered an elevator that dropped so fast, Kethvar's stomach lurched. The display showed they were descending 30 floors below ground level. When the doors opened, he gasped. The chamber was massive, carved from solid rock and filled with machines that defied explanation. Humans in white coats worked at stations that projected holographic displays. In the center of the room stood a table showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Welcome to Deep 7, Chen said, the heart of Earth's defense network. Admiral Sarah Chen, a woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, approached them. Kethvar noticed she shared the same last name as the colonel, but looked much older. My daughter told me you had arrived, the admiral said. I am Sarah Chen, commander of the Black Fleet Protocol. Black Fleet? Kethvar asked. Admiral Chen pressed a button on her wrist device. The holographic map changed, showing the Sol system. Red dots appeared around every planet and moon. Hundreds of them. Each dot represents a ship, she explained. We have been building them for 78 years using technology taken from crashed alien vessels and improved with human engineering. Kethvar stared at the map. There were more ships in this one system than most galactic civilizations possessed in their entire fleets. This is impossible, he whispered. Your species has only had spaceflight for a few decades. We have had spaceflight much longer than you think, Colonel Chen said. We just never left our system. We were preparing. A scientist approached, with a data pad. Admiral, the HFY analysis is complete. Show our guest, Admiral Chen ordered. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed detailed images of HFY bioships and warriors. The level of detail shocked Kethvar. These were better than any intelligence reports the Galactic Council possessed. You have been studying them, he said. For 12 years, the scientist replied. Ever since they first appeared on our long-range sensors, we have analyzed every battle, every tactic, every biological weakness. How? Kethvar asked. They are on the other side of the galaxy. Admiral Chen smiled. We have our ways. Would you like to see a Black Fleet ship? They took another elevator, this one moving sideways through the mountain. When the doors opened, Kethvar stepped into the largest underground space he had ever seen. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them. Before him stretched a fleet of ships unlike anything he had ever imagined. They were black, not painted. Black, but made of material that seemed to absorb light itself. The ships had smooth curves like living creatures, but with angular sections that looked purely mechanical. Some were as small as fighters, others as large as battleships. "We call them Shadow Wolves," Admiral Chen said as they walked between the vessels. "Each ship uses a combination of alien technology we captured and human innovations your people never thought to try." "What kind of innovations?" Kethvar asked. Colonel Chen answered. "Stealth systems that make our ships invisible to most sensors. Weapons that fire solid projectiles at incredible speeds instead of energy beams. Armor that regenerates itself using nanotechnology." They stopped beside a medium-sized ship. Its hull seemed to ripple like water. "This is adaptive camouflage," the Admiral explained. "The ship can look like an asteroid, a piece of space debris, or even another ship entirely. The HFY will never see us coming." A technician approached. "Admiral, Captain Martinez is ready for the briefing." They entered the ship through an airlock that sealed behind them with a sound like a sigh. Inside, the corridors were narrow and filled with equipment Kethvar did not recognize. Everything was designed for efficiency, not comfort. The bridge was small and dark, lit only by displays that showed information in symbols Kethvar could not read. Captain Martinez, a man with scars on his face and hands, stood waiting for them. "Captain, explain our tactical doctrine to the ambassador," Admiral Chen ordered. Martinez activated a display that showed battle formations. "Traditional galactic warfare uses large formations flying in straight lines," he said. "Ships announce their presence and fight honorably. This works when both sides follow the same rules." "The HFY do not follow rules," Kethvar said. "Exactly. So we fight like them, but better. We use small groups that attack from multiple directions. We hide until the last moment. We target their weak points instead of trying to overpower them." "Is this not dishonorable?" Kethvar asked. The humans looked at each other and laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Honor is a luxury for species that are not facing extinction," Admiral Chen said. "We learned long ago that survival matters more than honor." They returned to the main briefing room where more humans had gathered. These were clearly military officers, but they looked different from any soldiers Kethvar had seen. Their eyes held a coldness that made him uncomfortable. "Ambassador," Admiral Chen began, "we have been preparing for galactic war since we first learned we were not alone. We studied every species, every technology, every weakness. We built our ships in secret and trained our crews for battles we hoped would never come. The HFY changed that," Colonel Chen added. "When they appeared, we knew this was the war we had been preparing for." Admiral Chen activated another display. This one showed Earth's moon, but it looked different. Massive structures covered its surface, and its orbit seemed slightly wrong. "We have made modifications to our solar system," she said. "Our moon now serves as our primary weapons platform. Mars has been converted into a shipyard. The asteroid belt is filled with automated defense stations. You have militarized your entire system," Kethvar said in horror. "We have prepared for war," Admiral Chen corrected. "Your people sent us information about the galaxy for decades without knowing it. Every transmission you made, every signal you sent, we were listening. We learned about your civilizations, your technologies, and your weaknesses." "And what did you learn?" Kethvar asked. "That you have never learned how to be truly ruthless," she replied. "You fight with honor and restraint. You try to minimize casualties and preserve life. These are noble goals, but they will not stop the HFY." Captain Martinez stepped forward. "We have studied the swarm's tactics. They expect their enemies to fight like civilized beings. They do not expect enemies who will sacrifice anything to win." "What are you proposing?" Kethvar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Admiral Chen looked him directly in the eyes. "Total war, Ambassador. The kind of war your people have never seen. The kind of war that will either save the galaxy or destroy it." The combined fleet hung in space above Kepler 442b, a dead world that had once housed 12 billion souls. Ambassador Kethvar stood on the bridge of the Galactic Council flagship, watching the tactical display with growing fear. 300 council ships formed perfect battle lines, their hulls gleaming silver and gold in the light of the distant star. "Where are the human ships?" asked Admiral Tirwan, commander of the council forces. His crystalline body sparkled with nervous energy. "They said they would be here," Kethvar replied, checking his communication device again. 2 weeks had passed since he returned from Earth with humanity's promise to help. The Vex-High swarm had used that time to consume another star system. Perhaps they realized the danger and ran, suggested General Voxhan from his position at the weapons console. A new voice cut through the bridge chatter. "Council Fleet, this is Captain Santos of the ESS Reaper. We are in position and ready to engage." Admiral Tirwan looked around in confusion. "I do not see any human ships on our sensors." "That is the point," Captain Santos replied. "The swarm has arrived." The tactical display erupted with red contacts. Hundreds of Vex-High bioships dropped out of hyperspace, their organic hulls pulsing with sick green light. They moved like a school of deadly fish, flowing around the planet in perfect coordination. "Form defensive positions," Admiral Tirwan ordered. "All ships, prepare to engage." The Council fleet moved into their traditional formation. Heavy cruisers in the center, destroyers on the flanks, fighters screening the front. It was the same strategy that had protected galactic civilization for thousands of years. The Vex-High did not use formations. They swarmed forward like angry insects, their bioships stretching and changing shape as they moved. Some grew extra weapons, others sprouted armor plates. The hive mind adapted in real time to whatever it faced. "Open fire," Admiral Tirwan commanded. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the council ships. They struck the Vex-High vessels and burned holes through their organic armor. For a moment, Kethvar felt hope. Maybe this time would be different. The hope died quickly. The damaged bioships simply absorbed nearby smaller vessels, healing themselves instantly. The holes closed as if they had never existed. Worse, the swarm learned from each attack. Their hulls began to reflect the energy beams back at the council ships. "Shields failing on Deck 7, someone reported. "The Zeph-Tari cruiser Starlight is taking heavy damage." Kethvar watched in horror as the elegant crystal ship cracked apart under Vex-High acid fire. Escape pods launched, but the swarm intercepted them. He did not want to think about what happened to the survivors. "Where are the humans?" Admiral Tirwan demanded. The answer came in the form of explosions. 3 Vex-High bioships suddenly erupted in balls of fire and debris. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. "What is happening?" Kethvar asked. "The humans are happening," Captain Santos replied over the communication channel. "We are engaging the enemy from their blind spots." On the tactical display, Kethvar saw impossible things. Vex-High ships were exploding for no visible reason. Others suddenly lost power and drifted helplessly. Some began attacking their own allies. "How are you doing this?" Admiral Tirwan asked. "Trade secrets," Captain Santos said. "But I can tell you we are using weapons you would consider barbaric." A massive Vex-High bioship, one the size of a city, suddenly split open along its length. Through the gap came a smaller vessel painted in absolute black. It moved like a knife, cutting through flesh, its hull barely visible against the stars. "That is one of ours," Kethvar breathed. The Shadow Wolf fired projectiles instead of energy beams. Solid chunks of metal moving at incredible speed punched through the bioship's regenerating armor faster than it could heal. The massive vessel convulsed and died. More human ships appeared as if from nowhere. They had been hiding behind asteroids inside the planet's atmosphere, even attached to the hulls of council vessels. Each one struck without warning and vanished again into the darkness. "This is not how space battles are fought," General Voxhan protested. "It is how we fight," came another human voice. This one belonged to Captain Martinez. "Council fleet, recommend you fall back to minimum safe distance. We are about to try something experimental." "What kind of experimental?" Admiral Tirwan asked. "The kind that might kill everyone in this system if we get it wrong." Before anyone could protest, the human ships began a coordinated attack on the largest Vex-High vessel. It was a biocarrier the size of a small moon, birthing new fighters every few seconds. The Council had been unable to even scratch its armored surface. The human ships did not attack its armor. Instead, they flew directly into the creature's open birthing chambers. Explosions erupted from inside the massive bioship as the shadow wolves detonated themselves deep within its body. "They are committing suicide," Kethvar said in shock. "No," Captain Santos corrected. "They are using escape pods equipped with our experimental virus. The crews will be picked up later." The biocarrier began to convulse. Its green glow flickered and changed to red. The new fighters it was producing suddenly turned and began attacking other swarm vessels. "You infected it," Admiral Tirwan realized. "We gave it new programming," Captain Martinez explained. "Our computer specialists studied the hive mind's communication systems. We created a virus that makes the infected vessels think other swarm ships are enemies. The infection spread rapidly. Within minutes, half the Vex-High fleet was fighting. The other half, the bioships that had seemed invincible moments before, tore each other apart with savage fury." "This is brilliant," General Voxhan said. "Why did we never think of this?" "Because you are civilized," Captain Santos replied. "You follow rules of warfare. You try to minimize casualties and preserve life. We learned long ago that sometimes you have to become a monster to defeat monsters." The battle was turning. Confused and leaderless, the remaining Vex-High ships began to retreat, but the humans were not finished. "All Shadow Wolves, implement Protocol 7. Admiral Chen's voice came over the channel. "What is Protocol 7? Kethvar asked. "Something your people will not like," Captain Santos said. "We are going to follow them home." The human ships that had been hiding throughout the system suddenly revealed themselves. There were not dozens, but hundreds. Black vessels of every size emerged from behind moons, from within gas giant atmospheres, from the asteroid fields where they had waited in perfect silence. "You brought your entire fleet," Admiral Tirwan said in amazement. "This is less than 10% of our fleet," Captain Martinez corrected. "We have been building ships for 78 years. We have enough vessels to fight 1,000 battles like this one." The surviving Vex-High ships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing the system. The human ships followed immediately, vanishing into the dark between stars like hunting wolves pursuing wounded prey. Kethvar stared at the tactical display, now showing only the damaged Council fleet and the debris of destroyed bioships. In less than 2 hours, the humans had accomplished what the galaxy's greatest military minds had thought impossible. They had defeated the Vex-High swarm. But as he watched the last human ship disappear into hyperspace, Kethvar wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. The humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They were efficient, ruthless, and completely without mercy. What would happen when there were no more enemies left to fight? 3 months later, Ambassador Kethvar stood in the command center of humanity's newest weapon platform. It had once been Earth's moon, but now it looked like something from a nightmare. The entire surface was covered with massive weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Human engineers had hollowed out the core and filled it with technology that made Kethvar's scales itch. "The Reaper Protocol is ready for deployment," announced Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief scientist. She was a small woman with tired eyes who spoke about destroying civilizations like she was discussing the weather. "Explain it again," Admiral Chen requested. Around the war room, human officers and a few alien observers watched holographic displays, showing the galaxy. Red zones marked areas controlled by the Vex-High swarm. The red was spreading every day. The nanobots are designed to target the specific proteins that make up Vex-High bioarmor, Dr. Vasquez explained. "Once released, they will spread through the hive mind's communication networks. Every swarm vessel will be infected within hours." "And then?" asked General Korath, one of the few Altarian officers brave enough to work directly with humans. "Then, they die," Dr. Vasquez said simply. "All of them. Every bioship, every drone, every piece of swarm technology will dissolve into basic chemicals." The room fell silent. Even the humans looked uncomfortable. "This will kill billions of creatures," General Korath said quietly. Billions of creatures that want to consume the galaxy, Captain Santos replied. She had been promoted after her success at Kepler 442, but the experience had changed her. Her eyes now held the same cold look that Kethavar had seen in other human warriors. There must be another way, Kethavar protested. Some method that does not require genocide. Admiral Chen turned to face him. Ambassador, how many systems has the swarm consumed while we have been preparing this weapon? Kethavar checked his data pad. 47 systems, approximately 800 billion lives. And how many more will die if we hesitate? She asked. The question hung in the air like poison. Everyone knew the answer. The swarm was growing stronger every day. Traditional weapons had failed completely. Even the virus attacks that worked so well in the first battle were becoming less effective as the hive mind adapted. The Galactic Council will never approve this, General Korath said. The Galactic Council is not in charge of this operation, Admiral Chen replied. Humanity is. Over the past 3 months, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. Human fleets had won 12 major battles against the swarm using tactics that horrified their alien allies. They attacked without warning, targeted civilian support vessels, and used weapons that caused maximum psychological damage. The Council forces had begun to refuse joint operations. They claimed human methods violated every principle of civilized warfare, but they could not argue with the results. Wherever humans fought, the swarm retreated. Show them the Beijing footage, Admiral Chen ordered. A holographic display activated, showing the ruins of Earth's capital city. The buildings were melted slag, the streets filled with green slime that had once been human beings. Bodies hung from twisted metal structures, converted into swarm bioweapons. This happened 6 weeks ago, Admiral Chen said. A single swarm infiltrator landed near the city. Within 12 hours, 20 million people were dead or converted. We had to use nuclear weapons on our own capital to stop the spread. Kethavar stared at the images in horror. He had not known the swarm had reached Earth. That is why we created the Reaper Protocol, Dr. Vasquez continued. We learned that there is no reasoning with the swarm, no negotiation, no mercy. They exist only to consume, so we will give them what they deserve. When will it be ready? Asked Captain Martinez. He commanded one of the new super-destroyers that humanity had built using captured swarm technology. The nanobots are ready now, Dr. Vasquez replied. But we need to get them to the source, the Queen Mind at the center of swarm space. Admiral Chen activated a star map showing the galaxy's core region. A massive red zone pulsed like a diseased heart. Intelligence suggests the Queen Mind is located here, in the Andromeda Nexus. It is a living planet surrounded by millions of bioships. Every attack we have made in that direction has failed. What about the Council fleets? General Korath asked. The Council has lost 60% of its ships, Admiral Chen said bluntly. Your traditional tactics cannot penetrate swarm defenses. We need a different approach. Captain Santos stepped forward. We have been developing something special for this mission. Operation Hellfire. The display changed to show Earth's solar system. But something was wrong. Mars was missing from its orbit. Where is Mars? Kethavar asked. On its way to the galactic core, Captain Martinez replied. We have converted the entire planet into a kinetic weapon. It is currently traveling at 12% of light speed. The aliens in the room stared in shock. The humans had turned an entire planet into a weapon. You cannot be serious, General Korath whispered. Dead serious, Admiral Chen confirmed. Mars will impact the Queen Mind's planet in 14 days. The explosion will destroy everything within 50 light years, including the source of the hive mind. And what about the Council ships in that region? Kethavar demanded. We sent evacuation warnings, Captain Santos said. Any ships that remain will be considered acceptable losses. The cold way she said it made Kethavar's blood freeze. The humans were planning to destroy an entire region of space, along with any allies who happened to be there. This is madness, he said. This is war, Admiral Chen replied. The kind of war your people never learned how to fight. We warned you that we would do whatever necessary to win. Dr. Vasquez activated another display. This one showed microscopic images of the nanobots that would carry out the genocide. Each nanobot contains enough destructive power to dissolve a swarm bioship, she explained. They are programmed to seek out and destroy anything with Vex-high genetic markers. They will spread through the hive mind's communication networks faster than the swarm can adapt. What happens after the swarm is destroyed? Kethvar asked. The humans looked at each other. For the first time since the war began, they seemed uncertain. We go home, Admiral Chen said finally. We rebuild our cities and try to forget what we had to become to save the galaxy. And if other threats appear? Then we will deal with them the same way, Captain Santos said. We will do whatever is necessary to protect what we care about. Kethvar realized that humanity had changed during this war. They had always been violent, but now they were something more dangerous. They had become efficient killers who felt no remorse about genocide if it served their goals. The galaxy will fear you after this, he said quietly. Good, Admiral Chen replied. Fear will keep them safe. No one will ever again make the mistake of threatening worlds under human protection. The countdown timer on the main display showed 13 days until Mars reached its target. 13 days until humanity committed an act that would either save the galaxy or damn it forever. Kethvar wondered if there was any difference between the two. The Andromeda Nexus pulsed with sick green light as the largest fleet in galactic history approached its borders. Ambassador Kethvar stood on the bridge of the ESS Prometheus, watching the tactical display with growing dread. Before them lay the Vex-high home cluster, a region of space where entire solar systems had been converted into living weapons. Mars will impact in 6 hours, reported Lieutenant Commander Hayes. All evacuation ships have cleared the danger zone. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. Around her, the command crew worked in silent efficiency. These humans had been at war for over a year now. They moved like machines, showing no emotion as they prepared to commit genocide on a galactic scale. Contact from the Queen Mind, announced the communications officer. Put it through, Admiral Chen ordered. The main screen flickered and filled with an image that made Kethvar step backward in horror. The Queen Mind was a massive creature fused into the surface of a living planet. Thousands of eyes covered its surface, and tentacles as large as starships writhed around its central mass. Humans. The creature spoke with a voice like grinding metal. We offer terms. I am listening, Admiral Chen replied calmly. Withdraw your weapon. Cease your resistance. We will spare one world of your choosing. The rest of your species will join the swarm. Admiral Chen looked around the bridge. Her officer showed no fear, only cold determination. Counteroffer, she said. Surrender now and we will make your death quick. The Queen Mind's countless eyes focused on the screen. You do not understand. We are eternal. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. Your weapon cannot destroy us. We will see, Admiral Chen replied, and cut the transmission. The planet weapon that had once been Mars was now visible on the long-range sensors. It had been accelerated to 15% of light speed and covered with layers of human technology. Kinetic barriers protected it from swarm weapons, while guidance systems kept it on target despite the massive gravitational forces in the galactic core. Swarm fleet is moving to intercept, reported Captain Santos from her position aboard the destroyer Reaper's Edge. Estimated 12 million bioships. All Black Fleet units, engage, Admiral Chen ordered. The space around the Nexus erupted into the largest battle in galactic history. Human ships painted in their signature void black emerged from hidden positions throughout the cluster. They had been waiting for weeks, using stealth technology to avoid detection. But this was different from previous battles. The swarm was fighting for its very existence, and the Queen Mind controlled every vessel directly. The bioships moved with perfect coordination, adapting instantly to every human tactic. We are taking heavy losses, Captain Martinez reported. The swarm has learned to counter our virus weapons. Hold the line, Admiral Chen ordered. We only need to buy time. On the tactical display, Kethvar watched thousands of ships die in minutes. The beautiful shadow wolves that had seemed so invincible were being torn apart by swarm bioweapons. Human crews sacrificed themselves in suicide attacks, using their ships as guided missiles against enemy formations. Admiral, Dr. Vasquez's voice crackled over the communication system. The Reaper protocol is ready for deployment, but we need to get closer to the Queen Mind. How close? Admiral Chen asked. Within the planet's atmosphere. The nanobots need direct contact with the Queen Mind's nervous system. Admiral Chen looked at the tactical display. The Queen Mind's planet was surrounded by millions of bioships. Getting through would require a miracle. I have an idea, Captain Santos said, but you are not going to like it. 20 minutes later, Kethvar found himself strapped into an escape pod aboard Santos's ship. Around him, the surviving Black Fleet vessels formed a desperate assault formation. This is suicide, he protested. Probably, Santos agreed. But it is the only way to save the galaxy. The plan was simple and insane. The human ships would ram directly through the swarm defenses, using their own hulls as shields to protect the nanobots. Most of the fleet would be destroyed, but a few ships might reach the planet's surface. All ships, execute Operation Final. Strike, Admiral Chen ordered. The Black Fleet charged forward like a pack of wolves attacking a mountain. Bioships swarmed around them, tearing at their hulls with acid weapons and kinetic strikes. One by one, the human vessels exploded in balls of fire and debris. But they kept coming. Each destroyed ship was replaced by another from the reserves. The humans threw themselves at the swarm defenses with the fury of a species that had nothing left to lose. Santos's ship made it through the outer ring of bioships, its armor barely holding together. Behind them, the weapon planet Mars was only minutes away from impact. Deploying nanobots, Dr. Vasquez announced. Through the ship's sensors, Kethvar watched millions of tiny machines pour out into the Queen Mind's atmosphere. They looked like silver dust, but he knew each particle contained the power to destroy the hive mind's biological systems. The Queen Mind began to scream. The sound came through every communication channel, a noise of pure agony that made the ship's hull vibrate. Around the planet, bioships began to convulse as the nanobots spread through the hive mind's neural networks. It is working, Dr. Vasquez said with savage satisfaction. The Queen Mind is dying. But the Queen Mind had one final surprise. As it died, it sent a signal that reached across the galaxy. Every swarm bioship, every converted world, every piece of Vex high technology began to self-destruct. They are destroying themselves rather than letting us win, Santos realized. The destruction was beautiful and terrible. Green explosions lit up the darkness as the swarm chose extinction over defeat. In minutes, a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for years simply ceased to exist. Then Mars arrived. The impact was like the birth of a new star. The Queen Mind's planet cracked apart under the kinetic force, sending debris flying in all directions. The explosion was so bright that it could be seen from the other side of the galaxy. When the light faded, nothing remained of the Andromeda Nexus except glowing gas and scattered asteroids. It is over, Admiral Chen said quietly. The swarm is extinct. 6 months later, Kethvar stood in the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers. The galaxy was at peace for the first time in years. Trade routes were reopening and worlds were beginning to rebuild. But humanity had changed. They had not returned to their isolated system as promised. Instead, they had established monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Human ships patrolled the borders of known space, watching for new threats. The Council offers humanity full membership, Zareth announced. You have earned a place among the ruling species. Admiral Chen, now representing Earth and galactic affairs, shook her head. We decline, she said. Membership in the Council would require us to follow your rules of warfare. We cannot do that. Then what do you want? Kethvar asked. To be left alone, Admiral Chen replied. We will watch the galaxy from the shadows. When new threats appear, we will deal with them. But we will not pretend to be civilized while doing it. The humans departed that day, leaving behind only a simple message. It was broadcast on every communication channel in the galaxy, in every known language. The galaxy is under human protection. Any species that threatens innocent life will face extinction. This is our promise and our warning. Kethavar read the message and shivered. Humanity had saved the galaxy by becoming the very thing they fought against. They were now the monsters in the dark, the ones who would do terrible things so others could live in peace. The galaxy was safe. But Kethavar wondered if they had simply traded one nightmare for another. In the depths of space, black ships waited in the darkness, their crews ready to become monsters once again if the galaxy needed them to be.